Most people go through life searching for success, for fulfillment, for happiness. But very few stop to ask the most important question: why? Why do we wake up every morning? Why do some people inspire us while others don't? And why do some lives leave a lasting impact while others fade away? Today isn't about motivation that fades when the applause ends. It's about perspective. It's about the kind of advice that shifts how you see your future, your work, and yourself. Simon Sinek reminds us that the future isn't shaped by what we achieve tomorrow. It's shaped by the choices we make today, the clarity we hold about our purpose, and the courage we have to live it. This isn't just advice, it's a call to lead, to serve, and to build a life that matters. When we talk about success, achievement, or even personal growth, most of us instinctively focus on what we want to do. We make lists of goals, we chase after milestones, and we obsess over outcomes. But the truth is, starting with what only scratches the surface. The deeper question, the one that defines not only the direction of our actions, but also the meaning behind them, is why. Why do you want to achieve that particular goal? Why do you wake up every morning and choose to take the steps you do? Why does it matter to you? And why should it matter to anyone else? Clarity of purpose is the compass that gives direction to everything else in life. Without it, we may find ourselves working tirelessly, yet ending up in a place that feels unfulfilling or misaligned with who we really are. Imagine someone who spends years climbing the ladder of success, only to realize that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. They may have the title, the money, the recognition, but they lack that deeper sense of satisfaction because they never paused to ask themselves why they were climbing in the first place. This is the danger of focusing only on the what and the how. We live in a culture obsessed with achievement, deadlines, and results, but when you strip all of that away, the foundation of a fulfilling life is not achievement, it's alignment with your why. When you know your why, it creates a sense of direction that transforms your actions from mere tasks into meaningful steps. For example, think of someone who works in healthcare. If they see their role only as a job, they may think, I help patients, I give medicine, I follow procedures. That's the what. But if their why is clear, if they believe they are there to restore dignity, bring comfort, or be a source of hope in someone's hardest moments, then every small action they take becomes infused with purpose. They aren't just performing tasks, they are living out their mission. That difference in mindset changes not only how they feel about their work, but also how others experience it. The same principle applies in leadership, business, or personal growth. People don't rally behind what you do, they rally behind why you do it. A leader who communicates the why behind a vision inspires people to contribute their best, because they feel they are part of something greater than themselves. A company that knows its why creates loyalty, because people aren't just buying a product, they're buying into a belief. On a personal level, an individual who knows their why develops resilience, because when challenges come, and they always do, the why becomes the anchor that holds them steady. This clarity of why doesn't just happen overnight. It requires reflection, self-awareness, and sometimes even failure to uncover. But once you find it, everything else becomes simpler. Decisions become clearer because you can measure them against whether they align with your purpose. Motivation becomes more sustainable because you're not driven only by external rewards, but by an internal compass. Even setbacks become less discouraging because they are not the end of the road. They are part of the journey that reinforces your why. The most inspiring people are not necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They are the ones who are most connected to their why. They make us feel something. They remind us of what matters. They invite us to believe in something bigger than ourselves. And in doing so, they prove that clarity of purpose is the foundation of a life not just of success, but of significance. Leadership has often been misunderstood as a position of authority, a title on a door, or a set of responsibilities that come with power. But real leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. This shift in perspective changes everything. The person who sees leadership as control will seek obedience, while the one who sees it as responsibility will seek trust. And trust is the foundation upon which great teams, organizations, and even societies are built. When people know that their leader genuinely cares for them, their well-being, and their growth, something remarkable happens. They stop working out of fear or obligation, and instead they start contributing with energy, creativity, and loyalty. They know their leader has their back, so they are willing to take risks, to innovate, and even to fail without the crushing fear of punishment. That is when organizations thrive, when people feel safe. Safety is not just about physical security, it is also about emotional and psychological safety. Leaders who create this environment give people the freedom to be human, to bring their whole selves to the table, and to feel valued for who they are, not just what they produce. Think of a leader who steps forward in times of crisis, not to save themselves but to protect their people. When mistakes are made, they don't rush to assign blame, they look for lessons, and they shield their team from unnecessary harm. And when success comes, they don't claim the spotlight, they shine it on the people who made it possible. That is the essence of servant leadership, putting others first, knowing that in lifting others the leader rises as well. This is not weakness, it is the ultimate strength, because it builds loyalty that no salary increase or incentive could ever buy. The best leaders understand that their role is like that of a parent. Parents don't measure their success by how much authority they command, but by how much they invest in the growth and independence of their children. Similarly, leaders measure their worth not by how many people serve them, but by how many people they serve and how many lives they improve. This doesn't mean leaders must be perfect or have all the answers. In fact, the most respected leaders are those who admit when they don't know something, but are willing to learn, willing to listen, and willing to grow alongside their team. In every industry, the difference between a toxic culture and a thriving one comes down to leadership. A boss demands results at any cost, but a leader inspires results by showing people that they matter. A boss uses fear as a weapon, but a leader uses empathy as a tool. A boss creates compliance, but a leader creates commitment. And in the long run, commitment always outperforms compliance. When leaders prioritize their people, they unleash potential that often lies dormant. They encourage collaboration over competition, and they create environments where people feel proud to contribute. This doesn't just improve performance, it transforms the very culture of the workplace. People stay longer, work harder, and care more deeply when they know they are valued. And the impact goes beyond work. It touches lives, families, and communities. Ultimately, leadership is not about power, status, or recognition. It's about responsibility, service, and sacrifice. It's about choosing every day to care for those who depend on you, not because you have to, but because you believe that is the only way true progress is made. Great leaders don't command loyalty, they earn it. And they earn it by putting people first, always. So many people spend their entire lives chasing success as if it were the final destination, as if reaching a certain income level, job title, or social status would suddenly unlock lasting happiness. Yet, over and over, we see examples of individuals who achieve incredible external success only to discover that something is still missing. That emptiness is the result of living without purpose. Success without purpose is like running a marathon in the wrong direction. You may cross the finish line, but it doesn't take you where you truly want to go. Purpose is what gives meaning to success. Without it, achievements feel hollow. Consider the stories of high-performing professionals who seem to have it all. From the outside, they look like the definition of success, wealth, recognition, power. But many admit privately to feeling unfulfilled, burnt out, or disconnected. Why? Because success defined only by metrics, money, titles, possessions, cannot nourish the human spirit. Purpose, however, does. When your success aligns with your purpose, even the smallest achievement feels significant, and setbacks become meaningful lessons rather than crushing defeats. Purpose acts as the fuel that sustains us when external rewards lose their shine. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of excitement, not because of what you will get from the day, but because of what you will give. That's the power of living with purpose. It shifts the focus from accumulation to contribution. The people who inspire us most are not necessarily the ones with the biggest bank accounts, but the ones who use their success to create impact. Think of leaders, teachers, innovators, and changemakers who, despite challenges, chose to connect their talents with something larger than themselves. Their lives demonstrate that success without purpose is temporary, but success driven by purpose is timeless. There's also a crucial difference in how purpose changes our resilience. When success is measured purely by external standards, failure can feel devastating. One setback may make someone question their worth. But when success is tied to purpose, failure becomes part of the process, not the end of it. You understand that every obstacle is just another step toward fulfilling your mission. Purpose reframes hardship, making it not something to fear, but something to embrace as a teacher. This is why some of the happiest and most fulfilled people are not necessarily those who have achieved the most in the eyes of society, but those who have aligned their lives with meaning. A teacher who dedicates their life to shaping young minds, a nurse who comforts patients in their darkest moments, or an entrepreneur who solves real problems for people. They may or may not be celebrated on magazine covers, but they embody a deeper success. Their fulfillment comes from knowing their work matters. And the truth is, purpose does not diminish ambition, it enhances it. When you pursue goals tied to your purpose, you push harder, not because of ego, but because you believe in the difference you're making. Success becomes more than a personal victory. It becomes a collective gain. This is why people who live with purpose naturally inspire others. Their energy is contagious because it's not about them, it's about something bigger. So, when we think about the future, the question we must ask is not simply, what do I want to achieve? But, why do I want to achieve it? Because the answer to that question is the difference between a life filled with trophies that gather dust and a life filled with meaning that leaves a legacy. Success without purpose may fill your shelves, but success with purpose fills your soul. We often think of the future as a single grand leap, a massive breakthrough moment when everything suddenly changes for the better. But the truth is, the future is not built on one big event. It is shaped by the small, consistent choices we make every day. Every decision, every habit, every step taken or avoided becomes part of a larger pattern that determines where we end up. It's not the dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that shape us most. It's the quiet, repeated actions that nobody sees, but that slowly compound into transformation. Consider the person who decides to dedicate just 15 minutes a day to reading and learning something new. 15 minutes doesn't sound like much. It's easy to dismiss it as insignificant. But over the course of a year, that adds up to nearly 90 hours of focused growth. In 5 years, it's the equivalent of an entire college degree in self-education. Small choices consistently applied create massive long-term results. In contrast, someone who waits for the perfect time or the big break often finds themselves stuck because those moments rarely come. Progress favors those who choose discipline over delay. The same principle applies to health, relationships, and careers. A person doesn't become physically fit by going to the gym once for 8 hours. They become fit by showing up for 30 minutes consistently, even on days they don't feel like it. A marriage doesn't thrive because of one extravagant gesture on an anniversary. It thrives because of daily acts of kindness, patience, and communication. A career doesn't grow only from one bold move. It grows from years of showing up, learning, adapting, and building trust. The future is written in those daily decisions, not in some mythical event that will suddenly change everything overnight. This is both empowering and challenging. It's empowering because it means anyone can change their future, not by waiting for luck, but by taking ownership of their choices today. It's challenging because it demands discipline, patience, and the humility to keep going even when results aren't immediate. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's often repetitive, uncelebrated, and even boring. But it's also what separates those who merely dream of a better life from those who actually build it. There's a concept called the compound effect, which explains how small actions multiply over time. Just as money grows with compound interest, so do our habits and choices. A tiny improvement, repeated over months and years, can create exponential growth. But the reverse is also true. A small negative habit, ignored over time, can lead to major setbacks. Skipping one workout, telling one small lie, or procrastinating on one task doesn't ruin a life. But repeated daily, those choices shape a trajectory that leads far from where we hope to be. The future rewards consistency, whether positive or negative. What makes this idea so powerful is that it returns control to us. Instead of waiting for opportunity, we create it. Instead of fearing the unknown, we influence it through the choices we make in the present. And while we can't control every circumstance, we can control our habits, our attitude, and the way we show up each day. Over time, that is what builds a future worth living. So when we think about success, growth, or happiness, the real question isn't, what massive leap will I take one day? But, what small step will I take today, and will I keep taking it tomorrow? Because in the end, it is those consistent, intentional steps that lead to the kind of future that feels not only successful, but deeply fulfilling. Courage is often misunderstood as fearlessness, as if those who are brave never feel doubt, hesitation, or discomfort. But the truth is, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. And more importantly, real courage is not about doing what is easy or convenient. It is about doing the right thing, even when it is difficult. The test of character is not found in moments of comfort, but in the choices we make when the stakes are high, when pressure is heavy, and when the outcome is uncertain. Doing the right thing rarely comes without cost. It may mean standing alone when others remain silent. It may mean sacrificing short-term rewards for long-term integrity. It may mean admitting a mistake instead of covering it up, or speaking the truth even when it risks criticism. These choices are never easy. Yet they are the ones that define us, because they reveal whether our values are just words we say or principles we actually live by. Courage transforms values into action. Think about leaders throughout history who are remembered not for taking the easy path, but for taking the hard one. They did not avoid conflict or hide from responsibility. They chose to do what was right, even when it cost them their comfort, their reputation, or even their safety. That is why their legacy endures, because they remind us that integrity matters more than convenience, and that courage inspires others to be braver themselves. In everyday life, courage shows up in smaller, but no less meaningful ways. It is the student who refuses to cheat even when everyone else is doing it. It is the employee who raises a concern when something feels wrong, even if it risks disapproval. It is the parent who chooses to admit their mistakes to their child, teaching humility instead of pretending to be perfect. These acts may not make headlines, but they ripple out in powerful ways. Each courageous choice sets an example, and each example gives someone else permission to live with greater integrity. The truth is, courage and fear will always coexist. Waiting until we feel ready or safe to do the right thing means we may never act at all. Courage doesn't erase fear, it overrides it with conviction. It says, I may be afraid, but this matters more than my comfort. And that perspective shifts everything because it reminds us that life's most important choices are not about avoiding risk, but about choosing meaning over fear. Courage also strengthens resilience. When you do the right thing once, even when it's difficult, it builds confidence for the next time. Each courageous act becomes a stepping stone, proving to yourself that you are capable of handling discomfort, criticism, or uncertainty. Over time, courage becomes less about one big moment of bravery and more about a lifestyle of choosing integrity over ease. That's how people earn respect, not by being perfect, but by being consistent in their willingness to stand for what matters. Another important truth is that courage is contagious. When one person takes a stand, it inspires others to do the same. A single voice can break the silence of a room. A single act of honesty can spark a culture of integrity. And in the same way that fear spreads quickly, so does bravery. Leaders who demonstrate courage don't just shape outcomes, they shape the character of the people around them. Ultimately, doing the right thing, even when it is hard, is what separates those who simply succeed from those who truly make an impact. Success achieved at the cost of values is fragile and empty, but success built on courage becomes meaningful and lasting. It shows that while fear is real, conviction is stronger. And in the end, the courage to act with integrity is what defines not just what we achieve, but who we become. In a world where results are often glorified above all else, it can be easy to believe that the way to inspire others is to demand performance, to push for outcomes, or to measure worth in numbers and metrics. But true inspiration doesn't come from pressure. It comes from belief. People are not motivated at their deepest level by someone demanding results from them. They are motivated when they feel that someone genuinely believes in them, even before they believe in themselves. Belief is what awakens hidden potential and turns ordinary effort into extraordinary commitment. Think back to a time when someone saw something in you that you didn't yet see in yourself. Maybe it was a teacher who told you that you had talent, a mentor who reminded you of your strengths when you doubted them, or a leader who trusted you with responsibility you weren't sure you could handle. That belief had power. It lifted you. It gave you courage to stretch beyond your comfort zone, to attempt things you might otherwise have avoided. Belief is transformative because it is rooted in trust and encouragement rather than fear and control. When leaders show belief in their people, they do more than inspire effort. They create ownership. Someone who feels believed in doesn't just want to do the bare minimum. They want to rise to the level of that belief. They work not out of obligation but out of pride. They want to prove that the trust placed in them was well deserved. This kind of motivation is far stronger and more sustainable than one driven by fear of failure or punishment. Belief shifts the focus from I have to I want to. It is also important to recognize that belief is not blind optimism. It is not about ignoring weaknesses or pretending that challenges don't exist. True belief is seeing both the reality of where someone is and the potential of where they can go. It is saying, I see who you are now, and I believe you can become even more. That combination of honesty and encouragement creates the conditions for growth because it both grounds people in reality and lifts them toward possibility. The greatest leaders, teachers, and mentors are remembered not for the instructions they gave, but for the belief they instilled. They understood that people perform best not when they are constantly evaluated, but when they are consistently encouraged. A leader who demands results may achieve compliance, but a leader who shows belief achieves commitment. And commitment is far more powerful than compliance because it taps into a person's sense of identity and pride. This lesson applies not just to leadership, but to every relationship. Parents who show belief in their children raise confident adults. Friends who believe in one another create bonds of trust that last a lifetime. Even in our relationship with ourselves, belief plays a critical role. Self-belief is what allows us to try again after failure, to push forward after setbacks, and to keep going when no one else is watching. Without belief, talent can remain hidden. With belief, potential becomes performance. Belief also has a multiplying effect. When one person feels believed in, they are more likely to extend that same belief to others. It creates a culture of encouragement rather than one of criticism. In organizations, this culture translates into innovation, collaboration, and resilience. In communities, it translates into support, unity, and strength. The ripple effect of belief extends far beyond one person or one moment. It shapes entire environments. At the heart of it all, inspiration is not about commanding people to deliver results. It's about cultivating a space where they feel capable, valued, and trusted. Demands may yield short-term outcomes, but belief yields long-term transformation. When you inspire others by showing belief, you don't just influence what they do, you influence who they become. And in that shift lies the greatest form of leadership and the truest measure of impact.